Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mercy, and I made a huge mistake. I recorded a whole video on this, and then, well, I don't know what I did, but it has disappeared. So now I have to do it all over again. But you know what? I'm kind of glad because there are some things that when I was looking at what I had written, I had missed out. So I have now written them down so that I can read. So if you see me looking up, it's because I'm using a double screen, and so I'm looking up from my phone. Okay, so pop culture. Many people judge what they think an executive or a personal assistant is based on what they see in pop culture. And I can say that I actually was one of those people who did this. And so I'm just going to look at some 10 portrayals and some cliches, and then we'll see what this executive assistants are sometimes being portrayed as. Okay, so bear with me as I do this. So the first one, let's talk about 5 good or positive portrayals of assistants. Now, this list is basically movies and series that I have watched. So maybe there are some that are great that I have not watched. Please feel free to put in the comment section any series or movies that you feel like I need to watch that had an awesome assistant or a really terrible one or something that's unique. Okay, so the first one, of course, goes to Donna Paulson from Suits. She is the assistant that very many assistants that I meet want to be. So for those who have not watched Suits, and I think it's obvious, but spoiler alert, over this I'm going to be talking about different things. So she is good because she is kind of the gold standard of being ultra competent. She's emotionally intelligent. She's strategic in everything, in her job, in the connections, in everything. And she even becomes the chief COO, operations officer, at some point. They even made an app that she sold that was, that she was trying to sell, that was basically about her, an assistant being her. And what we learn from her is the fact that as an assistant, you really need to be indispensable. Her bosses, Harvey could not do without her. They were fighting over this woman to an extent that at some point the boss was paying her more than any other assistant, which meant that he had to take money from his salary to top up her salary because the company wasn't willing to go higher. She was actually running the place, and she made sure that it cannot work without her. So be indispensable, okay? Secondly was Joanne. Joanne Holloway is from Mad Men. Now, I watched Mad Men years ago. I had to rewatch it again just so that when I decided to do this, because I thought that maybe there's something that I could have missed about this woman. But I loved her. I loved her in season 1, and I loved her all the way to the end. What I liked about Joanne was just how she started off as somebody who was not really taken seriously, and at the end, she was the operational leader. Now, there's a theme here that, many people think of as being an assistant as supporting. They don't see the strategy, they don't see the greatness behind it. And that is one of those things that, of course, we've been working quite a bit on this channel in dispelling the myth that you cannot grow vertically when you start off as an assistant. So, Joanne is good because she's the backbone of this Mad Men marketing agency. She is competent, she's poised, she's the queen. She even did a lot of HR at some point. Now, the lesson we learned from her, and I think also from Donna, is the fact that operational leadership doesn't always come with a title. They were running the organization even before they were given the title. And if you feel like the gaps in your company and in your organization, go ahead and fill them. And at some point, just make sure that you are vocal enough and visible enough that when they decide to make sure that this position is available, you will be the first person that they think of when they think of the position. Okay. Next, we will talk about grace. This was interesting. So, working 9 to 5 is one of those awesome videos that I liked. It's a movie, Dolly Parton. Yeah. So, working 9 to 5. So, Grace is good because she's loyal. She is hardworking. I mean, all the assistants of 9 to 5 were awesome, but Grace was loyal. She was hardworking. She kept the business afloat. She was just really, really great and calm under pressure. Loved her. And the lessons we learn about that is you can be the organizational change. Okay. So Grace, she was she made the change. This place was horrible. It had toxic masculinity all over the place, but she chose to be the change. Okay. Now, the next one is going to be somebody who was more of a receptionist, but she was doing assistant duties. And you will know why I put this one here. So Pam Beasley from The Office. I loved The Office. I think it was hilarious. Both the American and the UK one, totally loved them. And Pam, I have a problem with her. Okay, let's go with why she's good. She's good because she captures the heart of the office. She's the person that everybody was going to. She was just really, really good. And she keeps the morale of the company going. Her soft skills were great. She could talk to people. The lesson we learned from her is that you can influence people with building relationships. What I don't like about her is the fact that she never claimed her place, because until the whole time they kept looking at her as the receptionist, which means an EA and a receptionist, under most circumstances, the receptionist is paid less. So she is one of those that you will take on more, but nobody wants to remunerate you for the more. And she accepted it. So that's what I have an issue with her for. Then we have the final one, which is Betty Suarez. So we all love Betty from Ugly Betty. And she is good. She's good because she was thrown into the deep end of something that she had zero knowledge about, and she swam in it. She built resilience. She was principled. She was hardworking. She was strategic. I'm sure by the end of it all, the people who doubted her were really shocked by how it was. What I love is also just how this shows how, for some of us, I think throughout most of this channel, most of the assistants that I have interviewed keep saying that they were accidentally assistants. Okay, so some of us find ourselves in the role, and the fact that from Betty you can learn the authenticity in high stakes environments and just being yourself, because you cannot be anybody else. I have talked about this quite a number of times. At the beginning of my career, I wanted to be the perfect executive assistant until I realized the perfect executive assistant does not exist. I just needed to be the perfect Mercy. And since I started being the perfect Mercy, my life is so much easier and I like my job more. Okay? Now let's talk about the 5 cliches. I hate these bad cliches. These ones need to have been retired yesterday, last week, last month. I don't care, but they need to have been retired. So if we look at Andy Sachs from The Devil Wears Prada. Oh, now The Devil Wears Prada is just a bad cliche for PAs, basically, the whole thing. But, well, let's look at Andy. So the assistant who sold her soul to survive. I don't even think this exists. Most assistants do remain loyal to who they are. And it's very hard to do your job when you're running on fumes. From my book, we all see that burnouts are real and you cannot live in a panic mode, just because you want to be in the fashion industry. So the reality is, a real assistant would have said, Miranda, I need clarity on expectations. This workflow, it's not working for me. And I don't know, we would have just, it would have made the movie shorter, but at least the reality is more like that. That is how more it would have worked. So now when somebody goes into having an assistant with the idea that the assistant is going to be running after them with coffee and then they can spit on the assistant's face, not realistic. So Miss Moneypenny, this is from James Bond. So the reason why it's a cliche is because she's forever loyal, she's forever sidelined, her job is basically flirting and filing. So this maybe generational, but I don't even think back in the day that worked. I think you kind of still had to be a little bit competent to do your job. Um, so modern EAs, of which, of course, James Bond is evolving in everything except this particular position. Modern EAs run budgets. They are not busy doing the dry cleaning run for the spy. She should have been given in like the later versions of James Bond. They could have given her things which are more strategic, more conversational than just I'm clicking my fingers, go, dude, come, okay? Then let's look at Emily Charlton from again The Devil Wears Prada. As I say, this movie was really, 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 really not good. So, the gatekeeper dragon. We are gatekeepers, but we are also kind because our relationship, we are the first person the people see before they go to the executive. So, being a dragon kind of works against you because if you're not approachable and your executive is not approachable, then you will not really achieve anything. Okay. The reality is, if your workplace makes you cry in storage rooms, as a mental health advocate, I would tell you it's time for you to leave. So that would be it. That's not high performance, that's just potential burnout, okay? Then there's so Will and Grace. How many people remember that Karen was Grace's assistant? We saw her in the office with her. We never saw her doing anything except drinking. And it was just friendship, basically, with a salary. Of course, it's hilarious. It made the movie, I mean, the series, it was great. It was lovely to see that. But the reality is, we are not that. Okay, we kind of do things. And I think also the fact that they made it look as if Karen had zero skills. So the message there is you don't really need skills to be an assistant, and that's really not true. And then the worst was again 9 to 5, where you have all these assistants who are overworked and they they were treated like really horrible things that can just be looked at as pieces of objects. And unfortunately, this is rooted in truth. That is how people, especially in the olden days, looked at assistants. But modern assistants have been pushing for equality and influence and professionalism, and you can't just come and bully them and show them what you need to do. So if you're an assistant who's working at a place where you're still being treated like you're a nobody, then maybe you need to remind them that we are in 2025, 2026, whenever you're watching this video. So I think the stereotypes that we see for most of this stuff is, when you think about the underpaid saint, so that's 9 to 5, the underpaid saint, the manager's emotional punching bag, the multitasking magician who, honestly, I don't understand how they made multitasking look like it was supposed to be a normal thing for an assistant to be doing. First of all, reality is multitasking is a myth. You are only doing one thing while waiting for the other thing to finish. But it's just all these magician things that they made people do at 9 to 5. And of course, from Mad Men, the other one, I think the older series they were secretaries, but of course, we know that their roles could have been that of an assistant, of a modern day assistant. But in Mad Men, what annoyed me the most was the office wife stereotype because the bosses treated their secretaries, their assistants, like you're supposed to be the version of my wife at home. But even now, a modern wife wouldn't put up with that kind of thing. Um, And then there was also the myth of the hyper efficient secretary who knows everything. It is possible to not know anything. I am hardly ever surprised by things at work, but yeah, there are times that I just don't know. And if I don't know, it's okay. And then the myth of the horrible gatekeeper. We do gatekeep, but we are not that close that our gatekeeping hinders progress or visibility of the CEO. So I think with that, I come to the end of this video, which was intended to be less about 3 minutes shorter than it is currently. And I will look forward to bringing the next video, which is going to be about the stereotypes of 9 to 5 and Mad Men that shaped how the world sees assistants today. Okay, bye bye.